morning, traders. I am Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Thursday, July 17th. A slow and steady climb following a slump. Yesterday, markets dipped briefly over confusion about Powell's permanency under President Trump. Ultimately, the Dow advanced 231 points, or more than 0.5%. The S&P 500 picked up 19 points, or 0.32%. The Nasdaq gained 52 points, or 0.25%. Bill, let's get into Thursday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're flat to lower. We're down 0.07%, less than 0.1%. So, it's okay. We're getting a lot of corporate earnings, and that's really the focus today. I mean, you got the, earnings reports that came out from GE, Pepsi-Cola, Marsh McLennan, Alcoa, Taiwan Semiconductor. They're all trading higher after their earnings updates. And, on the economic front today, you get the retail sales report and you get the jobless claims. They're both due out before the opening bell. Trade talks to the EU, they're, seem to be going positive. That deal's expected soon. China's pushing for its, a Chinese-owned company, Cosco, to be an equal partner in that Blackrock deal over ownership of the Western ports. They're really pushing for that. President Trump, it's scheduled a little quiet today, but he is expected to sign some executive orders after the bell today. It's not really quite sure what these executive orders are on, but from the sources I see, it could be federal hiring freeze, seafood competitiveness, and possible trade action. So we'll have to wait and see till 4 p.m. today when he starts signing those executive orders. After the bell today, the big one, Netflix, NFLX, they're going to be releasing earnings. Interactive broker IBKR is also releasing. But tomorrow morning, you got earnings report from American Express, 3M, Schlumberger, Charles Schwab. So yeah, you got a lot going on today and tomorrow. But taking a look over at Europe this morning, and the DAX is up 204 points, or 0.85%. The FTSE's up 30 points, or 0.35%. The CAC in Paris is up 70 points, or 0.92%. I mean, there's a lot of, hope of a potential trade deal with the U.S., and that's causing those markets to show some, positive action. And then you turn in your attention over to Asia last night, and Asia generally saw, gains. The Nikkei was up 237 points, or 0.6%. Tech shares were higher. And, sentiment is improving there because the latest trade data showed declines in exports to the U.S. So they did rise to Europe. So, it wasn't like they were hurt, but that is a positive for the Japanese markets. Hong Kong, on the other hand, was flat to lower. It was down 0.08%, but autos did gain, but bank stocks fell. And then there's Shanghai. There's the Chinese market was up 0.37% with gains in autos and infotech stocks. Chinese authorities expanded vehicle trade-in policies and improved subsidies for subsidy standards for this year. So that's kind of positive for that auto sector. Turning our attention over to oil, we're seeing gains in oil. Which is positive. The tariff uncertainty, Middle East tension, that's really in focus for oil right now. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
Bill, the very first thing you mentioned there in your opening was that the main focus today is corporate earnings, a whole host of earnings and some big name companies. You gave us that highlight about Netflix and some others set to report. So let's dive in. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings action?
Yeah, a couple that did roar, like PepsiCo. I liked Pepsi going into it, ticker PEP, Paul Edward Paul. I mean, they beat by 9 cents and they did it on higher revenue. And the stock's up, about 2.93%. So that's positive. Abbott Labs, ticker ABT, they beat by a penny on higher revenue. Not really great. Stock's down 5%. You're looking at Novartis, ticker NVS, Nancy Victor Sam. They beat by 5 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. That stock's down 1.89%. But GE, they released, they're up 1.4. Marsh McLennan, they released, they're up about almost a 1%. TSM, Tom Sam, Michael, Taiwan Semiconductor, they're up 3%. So yeah, we had a lot of good earnings. After the bell today is Interactive Brokers, IBKR, India Boy, Kilo Richard. EPS is 44 cents. Expected move is 4.49%. Netflix, NFLX, EPS is $7.05. Expected move is 6.49% when they release. today after the bell today, Emily.
Bill, you're following all of that information using your earnings alert on your NewsWare, and I can't imagine being able to gather all of this information quickly without having that at your fingertips. Speaking of having data at your fingertips, on the economic front, there's a number of reports that are worth watching, along with more Fed speak. We've been heavy on the Fed speak all week. Important to be keeping track of that as we're gauging these economic indicators and digging for clues on what the Fed may be doing in the upcoming meetings when it comes to monetary policy. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Well, I mean, 8:30 a.m. you get retail sales. Also at 8:30 you get jobless claims. At 8:30 you get the import-export prices, and then there's an equity housing market index also at 8:30. In terms of Fed speak at 10 a.m., you can hear from Fed Governor and Adriana Krugler. 12:45, San Francisco Fed Bank President Mary Daly. 1:30, Boston Fed Bank President Susan Cook. And then at 6:30 p.m. we get the Fed Governor Christopher Waller. In terms of, what's the retail sales is really the key one. I mean, the market expects a modest rebound in the data for June with the consensus targeting a 0.2% increase. The May data came in at minus 0.9%. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a rebound in retail sales. So that could be an interesting report when it comes out at 8:30 a.m. this morning, Emily.
It's another area of information that you're watching using your NewsWare and your economic alerts and your Fed official alerts. You also have alerts set up for other types of news, data, and information, looking at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You look at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Looking at my Dow stocks this morning, I got 20 lower, 10 higher, and 1 unchanged. I'm looking at my FANG stocks, a little weakness and Google, but everything else is trading higher. And the SPUs are only down 0.01%. They're flat now. They're turning green. So could be an interesting day. You look at some of the news behind the tape, and one of the stories that hit after the close yesterday was on Amazon. They defeated a proposed class action suit by Prime Video subscribers over their introduction to commercials. It's positive for the stock. Google, OpenAI has added Google Cloud as a key infrastructure provider of its Chat GPT services. That's good to see. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, IBM is teaming up with Moderna to study quantum computing possibilities in medicine. That's good. Coca-Cola, this was interesting. Trump stated that he has been talking to Coke about using real cane sugar, and they have agreed to do so. That hurts Archer Daniels Midland ADM because they're the maker of that high fructose corn syrup. But we'll see if this actually happens. It could still just be discussions. In terms of guidance news, GE Aerospace, ticker GE, they raised their full year 2025 adjusted EPS view to $5.60 to $5.80. Now, the street estimate was $5.47. So this is a nice uptick. GE's, has legs. Abbott Labs, ticker ABT, Appleboy Tom, they narrowed their full year 2025 adjusted EPS to $5.10 to $5.20. Street estimates $5.16. Okay. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, they raised their outlook for 2025. That was positive. Stock's up 3.11% this morning. In terms of catalyst calls, SLDB, Sari Larry, David Boy, Citibank opened up a catalyst call on Solid Bioscience. This is a 90-day catalyst watch. But that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk Pick of the Day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
I'm going to go with Interactive Brokers, IBKR, India Boy, Kilo Richard. Earnings are out after the bell. EPS is 44 cents. Expected move is 4.49%. Look at yesterday's call volume, 12,200 calls versus 5,500 puts. 2 to 1. That's nice. Open interest, 147K to 117K. That's nice. Major brokers, positive on the stock. At the end of the day, I want to get in at a little bit of a discount. I'm thinking, 56, 59.50, maybe 59.60. We'll see how it trades the open. I do expect it to open up, trade a little weaker this morning. But I want to get out today. I don't want to hold it into earnings, but I may if I'm forced to. But IBKR, Interactive Brokers, at 59.55. That's my pick of the day, Emily.
Another earnings play today, and looking for that specific entry point, Bill, that was a strategy that you used on yesterday's pick of the day. And coming up, we will do a recap on that one before we sign off. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, what do we have here today? GE Aerospace offsetting tariff impacts through cost controls and price actions. BWXT, Boy William X-Ray Tom, BWX Technologies. It's a $2.6 billion contract for naval nuclear reactor component. J&J, Johnson & Johnson. Remember, that was my pick of the day Wednesday before the earnings. Stock was up $10 yesterday, but today they were granted FDA approval for a review of one of their drugs. RBLX, Roadblocks, launches age estimation system. Interesting. SRPT, Sam Richard Paul Tom announced restructuring plans, expects to lay off 500 workers. Pfizer and Bristol Myers are going to launch direct-to-consumer sales of one of their drugs. Bristol Myers, BMY, phase 3 data release on one of the drugs is seen as a potential catalyst for the stock, according to Morgan Stanley. EU stalls its probe into Mox's X system amid the U.S. trade talks. U.S. House agrees to consider crypto legislation is considered a big win for the digital asset industry. United Airlines reports increased demand, but Newark constraints hurt earnings. Remember, Newark has some issues at that airport. That's all I'm saying this morning.
Okay, Bill, before we get to trading on this Thursday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Alcoa. I did see that Bank of America Securities did raise their price target on the stock this morning to $27 from $26. The company did report earnings after the bell yesterday. They reported a Q2 EPS of 39 cents. Now, according to most estimates, that was actually 6 cents better than estimates of 33 cents. But I did see some estimates floating out there as high as 51 cents. So a little bit of a deviation there. But revenue for the quarter came in at $3.02 billion versus the consensus of $2.91 billion. Now, this is one of the companies that is closely watching tariffs, and they did mention that they're, able to mitigate some of the U.S. aluminum tariff costs by redirecting Canadian aluminum to customers outside the U.S. They were able to sort of weather a $115 million tariff costs and able to beat on those earnings fronts. Bill, were you able to beat with this one and make a gain? How did your call work out?
Worked out stellar. The stock opened up at $28.63, and then it fell. It fell to $28.12. And but at the end of the day, it was trading at $28.56. Now, my entry point was $28.50. But after that announcement, the stock ran. I mean, I saw it hitting $30.18. I believe I saw a $31 print too. So anyway, you look at it, after that earnings announcement, there's a lot of bullish activity in Alcoa, ticker AA, plenty of opportunity to get out with more than a 1% gain. So yeah, Alcoa, ticker AA, was a winner yesterday, Emily.
A good opportunity with that one, a win there, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Interactive Brokers pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow to end your trading week with NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.